Good day, everybody. Welcome to today's video. Today's video, we're going to do rear brakes and rotors on a 2010 F150. Make sure your vehicle's jacked up safely and wheel chalked as well, so it can't roll away. First thing you want to do, obviously, is to remove the rear tire. Now, my word of advice to remove that one with that weird end on it is to make sure you got a thick, strong wrench so it doesn't round off and strip that out, because then you're going to be asking for trouble. Loosen both of those bolts, back them right off. The bottom one you can get out. The one with that little bulb you can't, so you need to get that out as far as you possibly can till it basically touches the leaf spring there. And then you want to push that tab in on the rear brake, and then I'm getting Aubery to use a pry bar, and that's how you pry that piece out. And then if you're careful enough, you can rest that on top of the leaf spring till you get the rest of the parts off. Next part is going to remove the rotor. I'm going to spray it with some PB Blaster because that stuff is magic and it works absolute wonders to remove things that are seized, because most times these are going to be seized on. So I'm using an air hammer and going between the studs around and around until the rotor breaks free. Sometimes you got to hit it from behind with a hammer, but in Aubrey's case, we got lucky and managed to get it free without having to start beating it with a hammer to get that part off. Now for the caliper slide guides, you just get in there with your pry bar and hit those straight out. I'm just giving Aubrey some advice there and the best way to pop those out, because the only way you're going to get them is to come at them straight on. Otherwise, you're going to beat on those all day long. Once you come at those straight on, you see that those just come off really easy. Do the same with the bottom one as well. That one caliper pad always seems to stick, so I always kind of hit it with a rubber mallet just to kind of bust the rust and corrosion free. And then that way I'm just telling Aubrey that you got to kind of pull down and pull out to get that piece out, and then you can get the inside one off. And that's a special caliper piston tool. There's many ways that you could push the piston in. I just have the tool, just makes it easier. People sometimes use a C-clamp. There's many different ways to do this job. You don't actually need this tool, but it does make it easier. Before you replace any brake pads, you want to check your caliper slides. Most brake kits will come with new slide grease, so I just pull the rubbers out as such. And then Aubrey is just going to feed inside of the rubbers with some grease. Then once we got some grease in there, we will slide the pin in and out, and then do the same with the opposite side. And this you could do pretty much anytime you want, is to put the new caliper slide guides on and tap those in with a rubber mallet so you do not damage them. If you use a metal hammer, you may dent them up and will affect the way the brake works. And this is where Aubrey made his mistake. You do not put that pad on first, because you will not get the inside one in. And there is, on this style, the top has a little round notch, I guess you want to say, and that round notch goes down towards the bottom of the caliper, because that's where it rides. Then once you got that inside one in, and then the outside one can go on, then you're ready to attach it. Once you get a new rotor put on, Aubrey spraying the rotor down with some brake clean to clean off any of the grease or whatever they use during shipping and storing, so it doesn't corrode. And the new one will go on super easy, just slide her on. So this part's pretty important. When you're ready to put your caliper back on, those slide pins have to be pushed out so they do not catch when you are installing it back on. So you want to make sure your bottom locks, or I guess you want to call it, are on the slide pin. Make sure everything is aligned the way it should. Aubrey's just double check, make sure the caliper slide pin is pushed out. And then that little bulb on the end of the bolt kind of makes it a little bit awkward because you gotta have to slide that out and slide your caliper slide pin back. And once you get it in place, I usually like to take a mallet and tap it in. So I just pointed out to Aubrey that he didn't have the caliper on correctly. So now he is, and just hitting her back into place. Then once you get it in place, put all your bolts back in, tighten them up. The key is not to go too crazy. These bolts will break really easy, so there's no need to use all the strength you got to tighten them up, unless you're asking for trouble. Then once that's all done, put your tire back on, torque it up, and do the proper break-in procedure that the brakes require you to do afterwards. There should be instruction sheet. Talk to you later.